Sydney, this trip isn't really for you. It's a family celebration, and honestly, we need people who can actually contribute something meaningful. My mother's voice cut through the dinner table like a blade wrapped in silk. Clean, precise, final. I looked up from my plate. The fork in my hand felt suddenly heavy. Around the table, everyone froze for just a second. Emma, my younger sister, pressed her lips together and looked down at her wine glass. But I saw the corner of her mouth twitch. My father cleared his throat, reached for his water, said nothing. My name is Sydney Sweeney. I'm 32 years old. I work as a senior financial analyst in Seattle. I've spent the last decade building a career my family pretends doesn't exist. I see, I said quietly. My mother didn't even look at me. She turned to Emma instead. Emma, darling, you and Marcus should take the master suite this time. You two deserve it. Emma smiled. Thanks, Mom, that sounds perfect. Marcus, Emma's husband, nodded along. He's a dentist. A good one, apparently. The kind of son-in-law who shows up to family dinners with expensive wine and knows exactly what to say to make my parents laugh. I set my fork down carefully. No noise, no drama. So the Maldives trip is just for you three then? I asked. My mother finally looked at me. Her expression was patient, like she was explaining something simple to a child. Sydney, it's not that we don't want you there. It's just that this year is special. Emma and Marcus are celebrating their 5th anniversary. Your father and I want to make it memorable for them. I understand, I said. But I didn't. Not really. Because this wasn't new. This was the same script we'd been running for years, just with different locations. Lake Tahoe, Napa Valley, Aspen. Always a reason. Always someone more important. Always Emma. My father spoke up then, his voice low and careful. Sydney, you're always so busy with work anyway. We figured you wouldn't have time. I looked at him. He couldn't hold my gaze. I took 2 weeks off, I said. I mentioned it last month. Emma shifted in her seat. Well, maybe next year, Sid. You know how these things are. I knew exactly how these things were. The rest of dinner passed in polite conversation. Emma talked about redecorating their guest room. Marcus mentioned a new procedure he'd learned. My mother laughed at all the right moments. My father poured more wine. I sat there, present but invisible, the way I always had been. When dessert came, I excused myself. I need to use the restroom. No one looked up. I walked down the hallway, past the family photos lining the walls. Emma's wedding portrait, Emma's college graduation, Emma and Marcus at some charity gala. I appeared in exactly 3 frames, all of them group shots where I stood slightly to the side. In the bathroom, I locked the door and stared at my reflection. My face looked calm, composed, exactly the way I'd trained it to look. But inside, something shifted. I wasn't angry, not yet. Anger would come later, I thought. Right now, I just felt tired. Tired of being the footnote in my own family's story. Tired of pretending it didn't hurt. I washed my hands slowly, letting the water run cold over my fingers. Then I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry or make a scene or ask them why I wasn't enough. But I also wasn't going to disappear. I dried my hands, smoothed my hair, and looked at myself one more time. Okay, I whispered to my reflection. Let's see how this plays out. I unlocked the door and walked back to the table, my spine straight, my face calm. They didn't notice I'd been gone longer than necessary. They never did. I sat back down at the table. No one acknowledged me. The conversation had already moved on. Emma was scrolling through her phone, showing my mother photos of the resort. Look at this one, Mom. The villa has its own infinity pool, and this breakfast spread, oh my God. My mother leaned in, her face glowing. That looks absolutely divine. Mark, come look at this. My father moved his chair closer. Beautiful. This is going to be a trip to remember. I picked up my fork. The pasta on my plate had gone cold. I've always been the responsible one. Even as a kid, I was the one who cleaned up after family dinners while Emma watched TV. I was the one who worked 3 jobs to pay my college tuition, while Emma's was handed to her, paid in full, no questions asked. I remember my college graduation. I walked across that stage, summa cum laude, accounting degree in hand. My parents came. They sat in the back. We took one photo together outside the auditorium, and then my mother checked her watch. "We need to go, Sydney. It's Emma's birthday dinner tonight." Emma was turning 19. Her birthday was 3 days away. I drove myself home that night. Alone. Years later, when I received my first major industry award for financial analysis, I invited my whole family. I even paid for their hotel rooms. My mother called the morning of the ceremony. "Sydney, honey, we can't make it. Emma's having a rough day, wedding planning stress. You know how it is." I accepted the award in a room full of strangers who clapped politely. I smiled for the photo. I went home and hung the plaque on my office wall where no one would see it. At the table now, Emma was still talking. "Dad, you said the total is coming to around 40,000, right?" My father nodded. "Give or take, but it's worth it. This is for family." For family. I set my fork down again. I couldn't eat. Marcus chimed in. "That's incredibly generous of you both. Emma and I really appreciate it." My mother waved her hand. "Oh, it's our pleasure. You two work so hard. You deserve this." Something inside me cracked, not loud, not dramatic, just a clean split, like ice breaking under pressure. I've been funding my parents' property taxes for 3 years. They called. Them loans. Small ones at first. 2,000 here, 5,000 there. Then it became 8,000 twice a year. They never paid me back. I never asked them to. Last year, Emma's husband had what they called slow months at his practice. She called me crying. Her car payment was due. Could I help just this once? I sent her $1,200. She called again 2 months later. Same story. I sent another $1,200. She never said thank you. Not really. Just a quick text. "You're a lifesaver, Sid." I looked around the table now. My mother was laughing at something Marcus said. My father was pouring more wine. Emma was glowing, her hand resting on her husband's arm. They looked happy, comfortable, secure. I pulled my phone out under the table, opened my banking app. I navigated to my investment account. The balance loaded slowly. $340,000. I'd been saving for years, living below my means, investing carefully, building something stable, something mine. They wanted contribution? I'd give them exactly that. I looked up from my phone. My mother was watching me now, her expression mildly annoyed. "Sydney, are you even listening?" I smiled. Calm, controlled. "Sorry, Mom, work email. What were you saying?" She sighed. "I was saying that Emma and Marcus are thinking about starting a family next year. Isn't that exciting?" "Very," I said. Emma beamed. "We're not trying yet, but we're talking about it. Maybe after the Maldives trip." "That sounds perfect," I said. My voice was steady. My hands were steady. But inside, everything had shifted. I excused myself 20 minutes later, citing an early morning meeting. I hugged my mother. I hugged my father. I hugged Emma and Marcus. "Safe drive home?" My mother said absently. I walked to my car, got in, and sat in the darkness for a long moment. Then I opened my phone again and stared at that number. $340,000. I started the engine and pulled out of the driveway. I didn't look back. I drove home in silence. The city lights blurred past my windows. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. When I got to my apartment, I didn't turn on the lights. I just sat on my couch in the darkness, my phone still in my hand. Then I opened my laptop. I started searching. Maldives resorts, luxury villas, private islands. I scrolled through dozens of websites until I found it. The photo Emma had shown my mother at dinner. The infinity pool. The breakfast spread. Villa Private Island. I clicked through the gallery. White sand beaches, overwater bungalows, crystal blue water that looked unreal. I read the description. One of the most exclusive properties in the world. 47 private villas. Personal butler service. Michelin star dining. I found the booking portal and searched for reservations under my father's name. There it was. 3 villas. 2 weeks in July. Check-in, July 14th. Check-out, July 28th. I leaned back and stared at the screen. July 14th was my birthday. I closed my eyes, breathed slowly. They'd booked their family celebration on my birthday. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they didn't care enough to remember. I opened my eyes and kept scrolling. Every family vacation I'd missed played through my mind like a film reel. The ski trip to Aspen when I was 25. I'd asked if I could come. My mother said the cabin only had 3 bedrooms. The wine tour in Napa when I was 28. Emma posted photos every day, my parents looking sun-drunk and happy. Marcus with his arm around Emma. Captions like family is everything and blessed beyond measure. I wasn't in a single photo. I'd spent that Thanksgiving alone in my apartment, eating takeout Chinese food, and pretending I didn't care. Christmas 2 years ago. They went to Turks and Caicos. I found out from Emma's Instagram story, a video of them toasting champagne on the beach. My mother's voice in the background saying, "This is what life is about." I'd called my mother that night. She answered on the fourth ring. "Oh, Sydney, hi, honey, we're just sitting down to dinner." "I didn't know you were traveling," I said. "It was last minute." Emma needed a break. You know how stressful wedding planning can be. Emma had been married for 3 years at that point. I stared at my laptop now, at the Vela website, at the pristine beaches and perfect sunsets. I didn't want to crash their trip. That would be too easy, too expected. I wanted something else. I picked up my phone and dialed the number listed on the resort's contact page. A man answered on the second ring. His voice was warm, professional. "Good evening. Vela Private Island. This is Amir speaking. How may I assist you?" "Hi, Amir. I have a question about booking your resort." "Of course, I'd be happy to help." I took a breath. "I want to book the entire property, all 47 villas, for 2 weeks in July." There was a pause. "The entire resort?" "Yes." "May I ask the dates?" "July 14th through July 28th. I heard him typing. "One moment, please." I waited. My heart was beating faster now. "Ms." He trailed off. "Sweeney, Sydney Sweeney." "Ms. Sweeney, I see we do have existing reservations during that period. However, if you were interested in an exclusive buyout, we would cancel all current bookings with full refunds and our sincere apologies." "How many reservations would that affect?" "Let me check." More typing. "It appears we have 4 separate bookings during those dates, 12 villas total." "And the cost for a full buyout?" "For 2 weeks of complete exclusivity, including all 47 villas, private staff service, and full resort amenities, the total would be $890,000. $890,000. I looked at my investment account balance still open on my laptop. 340 what? $1,000. I had more in other accounts. Savings, retirement, stock options that had vested last year. "Ms. Sweeney, I'm here," I said. "Would you like me to prepare a formal proposal?" I sat there in the darkness of my apartment. The city hummed outside my window. "Can I have 24 hours to decide?" "Absolutely. I'll send you our buyout package via email. Take all the time you need." "Thank you, Amir." "My pleasure, Ms. Sweeney. I look forward to hearing from you." I hung up. I closed my laptop. I sat in the silence and whispered to my empty apartment. "What's the price of being seen?" I sat there in the dark, wondering if anyone watching this unfold would think I was crazy. Maybe I was. But if you've ever been the invisible child, the one who did everything right and still got nothing, you know this feeling. It's not about the money. It's about the moment you stop asking for a seat at the table and realize you can buy the whole damn restaurant. If this resonates with you, if you've ever felt this invisible, stay with me. Like this story, subscribe. Because what happens next isn't just revenge, it's reclamation. I woke up the next morning with perfect clarity, the kind of clarity that comes after years of fog finally lifts. I made coffee. I sat at my kitchen table. I opened my laptop. I called my financial advisor at 9 sharp. "David, it's Sydney. I need to liquidate some investments." He was quiet for a moment. "How much are we talking about?" "Enough to wire $900,000 today." Another pause. "Sydney, that's a significant move. Can I ask what this is for?" "Something important," I said. He didn't push. He never did. That's why I'd worked with him for 8 years. By noon, the funds were ready. I called Amir at Vela Private Island. "Ms. Sweeney, good to hear from you. I'd like to move forward with the full resort booking." Excellent. I'll begin preparing the contract immediately. One special instruction, I said. My family has a reservation during those dates. 3 villas under the name Robert Sweeney. I want their cancellation to happen exactly 14 days before their check-in date. Not earlier, not later. Amir was professional. Understood. We'll schedule the notification accordingly. Thank you. I hung up and initiated the wire transfer. $900,000. The largest single transaction I'd ever made. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. I stared at the confirmation screen, at the numbers that represented years of careful saving, smart investing, living below my means while my family lived above theirs on my dime. Nearly $1 million. Not for a dream home, not for a wedding, not for something joyful, for a point. But I also felt something else, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. For the first time in my life, I was controlling the narrative. I wasn't reacting. I wasn't accommodating. I wasn't making myself smaller so they could feel bigger. I was making a choice. I closed my laptop and went to work. Life continued. Meetings, presentations, budget reviews. I was good at my job. I'd always been good at my job. My colleagues respected me. My boss had mentioned a promotion coming in the fall. That evening, I had dinner with Rachel and Jen, friends I'd met through a book club 3 years ago. Real friends. The kind who remembered my birthday without Facebook reminding them. The kind who asked how I was doing and actually waited for the answer. You seem different tonight, Rachel said over wine. Good different or bad different? I asked. I don't know yet. Calmer, maybe. More settled. I smiled. I made a big decision recently. About what? I'll tell you when it's done. They didn't push. That's what real friendship looked like. I didn't tell anyone about the booking. The secret sat inside me like a ticking clock, steady and certain. 4 days later, my mother called. I was at my desk reviewing quarterly reports. I saw her name on my phone screen and almost didn't answer. But I did. Hi, Mom. Sydney, hi, honey. Do you have a minute? Sure. Your father and I have run into some unexpected expenses. The property taxes came in higher than we anticipated. We were wondering if you could help us out with a small loan, just $5,000. We'll pay you back next month. $5,000. Small loan. Pay you back next month. The same script we'd been running for 3 years. I took a breath. No, Mom, I can't do that. Silence. Complete silence. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. I'm sorry, she finally said. I said no. I can't loan you money right now. Sydney, it's only $5,000. You make good money. Surely you can spare it. I have my own expenses to manage. Her voice changed, cooled. I see. Well, I suppose your career has made you too important for family now. Something in my chest tightened, but I kept my voice steady. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. You know, Sydney, we raised you better than this. Family helps family. You're right, I said quietly. Family should help family. She didn't catch the weight in those words. So you'll send the money? No, Mom, I won't. Another silence, longer this time. Fine. I'll figure it out myself, like I always do. She hung up. I set my phone down on my desk. My hands were shaking slightly. It was the first time I'd ever said no to her. The first time in 32 years. I opened my email to distract myself. There, at the top of my inbox, was a message from Villa Private Island. Subject: Booking confirmation. Exclusive resort buyout. I clicked it open. Dear Ms. Sweeney, we are pleased to confirm your exclusive booking of Villa Private Island for July 14th to 28th, 2025. All existing reservations during this period will be canceled as per your instruction, with notifications sent 14 days prior to original. Check-in dates. We look forward to welcoming you. I read it twice. Then I looked at my calendar. Today was May 12th. I counted forward. 63 days until they found out. I closed my email and went back to work. The clock was ticking. The next 2 months passed with surgical precision. I watched my family's social media like someone watching a storm approach from a distance. Emma posted photos of new swimsuits with captions like, Vacation prep mode activated. My mother shared a reel about packing tips for luxury resorts. My father commented on a travel blog about the best snorkeling spots in the Maldives. Every post was another reminder, another confirmation that I wasn't part of their world. But something had shifted in me. I wasn't refreshing their pages with that old familiar ache anymore. I was watching with something closer to curiosity. Clinical observation. I started seeing a therapist during this time. Her name was Dr. Patricia Chen. She had an office in downtown Seattle, with plants on every surface and a view of the water. I told her I wasn't broken. I just wanted to understand why I'd accepted being invisible for so long. "What do you want from your family?" she asked during our third session. I sat with that question for a long time. "I used to think I wanted them to love me," I finally said, "or at least include me. And now? Now I realize I don't want reconciliation. I want acknowledgement." She nodded slowly. "What does acknowledgement look like to you?" "I want them to see what they did. I want them to feel what it's like to need me and realize I'm not there." She didn't tell me that was wrong. She just asked, "And then what?" I didn't have an answer yet. The days ticked by. I went to work. I had dinner with Rachel and Jen. I went for long walks along the waterfront. I slept better than I had in years. I wasn't waiting for the moment anymore. I was living through it with strange calm. June turned into early July. Then it was 14 days before departure. I woke up on June 30th to my phone ringing. The screen said Dad. The time read 6:47 in the morning. I answered. "Sydney." His voice was tight, strained. "Something's happened." I sat up in bed. "What's wrong?" "The resort canceled our booking, all 3 villas. They sent an email last night saying someone purchased exclusive rights to the entire property for the dates we reserved. They're refunding us the deposit, but Sydney, we can't find anything else available. Everything in the Maldives is booked solid for July. Emma is devastated. Your mother is..." He trailed off. I knew how my mother got. "That's terrible, Dad. I'm really sorry to hear that." Silence on his end. I could hear him breathing. "We were wondering if you could help us find something else. You're good at this sort of thing. Research, planning, maybe you have some work connections in the travel industry." I closed my eyes. There it was. Now they needed me. "I can look into it," I said quietly. "Thank you, Sydney. I know this is last minute, but we're really in a bind here. Your mother has been planning this trip for months. Emma had her heart set on it." "I understand. Can you start today? We need to find something quickly." "I'll see what I can do." "You're a lifesaver, honey. I'll tell your mother you're helping. Maybe this can all work out after all." We hung up. I sat in my bed, phone in my hand, watching the morning light filter through my curtains. My father had called me honey. He hadn't called me that in years. I got up and made coffee. I stood at my kitchen window looking out at the city waking up. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Dad said you're helping find a new resort. Thank you." I was literally crying all morning. This trip means everything to me and Marcus. You're the best big sister. I stared at that message. The best big sister. I set my phone down and picked up my coffee mug. Another text came through. My mother this time. "Sydney, your father told me you're looking into alternatives. Please find something comparable. We've already told all our friends about this trip. I can't bear the embarrassment of canceling." I took a long sip of coffee. The embarrassment of canceling. Not the disappointment, not the loss of family time. The embarrassment. I sat down at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. I pulled up my email and found the confirmation from Vela Private Island. I read it again slowly. Then I closed my laptop and stared at the wall. I wonder sometimes if there's a moment in every family dynamic where the invisible child has a choice. Keep trying to be seen, or step back and watch what happens when you're not there to catch everyone. What would you do? Would you help them find another resort? Would you tell the truth? I'm genuinely curious because in that moment, I wasn't sure myself what the right answer was. Maybe there isn't one. I picked up my phone and typed a response to my father. I'll do some research today and get back to you. Short, neutral, non-committal. I sent it. Then I got dressed and went to work. My phone buzzed throughout the day. Emma asking if I'd found anything yet. My mother forwarding me links to resorts that were either fully booked or wildly outside what they'd want to pay themselves. I didn't respond to any of them. At lunch, I sat in my office with the door closed and thought about Dr. Chen's question. And then what? I still didn't have an answer, but I was getting closer. The calls started coming every few hours. My mother left a voicemail on day 2. I listened to it during my lunch break at work. Sydney, honey, I need you to understand how important this trip is to Emma. She and Marcus have been planning this for months. It's their anniversary celebration. We've already told everyone we know about it. Please, if you can find anything, anywhere, we'd be so grateful. Her voice was sweet, pleading, the voice she used when she needed something. I deleted the message. That evening, Emma texted me. I know we're not close, but this was supposed to be special. Can you please help us? I'm begging you, Sid. We're not close. That was how she phrased it. Like distance was something that just happened, not something they created. I didn't respond. On day 3, my father called while I was making dinner. Sydney, I need to talk to you. I put him on speaker and kept chopping vegetables. I'm listening, Dad. Your mother is beside herself. Emma has been crying for 2 days straight. This trip meant everything to them. I understand. I know we haven't always made you feel included. His voice was careful now, measured. But family is family. We need you right now. I stopped chopping. It was the first time he'd ever acknowledged my exclusion. The first time in 32 years. And he only said it because he needed something. I'm doing what I can, Dad. Are you? Because it's been 3 days and we haven't heard anything concrete from you. My hand tightened on the knife handle. These things take time. We don't have time, Sydney. We leave in 11 days. I'm aware. He sighed. Just try harder, please. We hung up. I stood in my kitchen, the half-chopped vegetables in front of me, and felt the war inside myself. There was still a part of me that wanted their approval, that wanted to be the good daughter who saved the day, the one who fixed everything, the one they finally appreciated. But there was another part now, stronger, clearer. That part remembered every dismissal, every time I was cropped out of family photos, every holiday I spent alone, every achievement they ignored, every time I was told I wasn't family enough to matter. That part wasn't interested in saving anything. The next afternoon, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Sydney. Emma's voice, sharp. We need to talk. How did you get this number? I called your office, told them it was an emergency. I closed my office door. What do you want, Emma? I did some research, called around to different resorts, finally got through to someone at Vela who was willing to talk. The person who booked the entire resort for our dates is listed as S. Sweeney in their reservation system. The manager let it slip when I pressed him. My heart was beating faster, but my voice stayed level. Okay. Sydney. Her voice was tight, controlled. Is that you? I could lie. I could deflect. I could buy myself more time. But I was tired of hiding. 3 seconds of silence. Then I said it. Yes. The line went quiet. I could hear her breathing. Are you fucking serious right now? Her voice was rising. I could picture her face, red, furious. You spent $1 million just to ruin our vacation? What is wrong with you? Do you have any idea how selfish that is? How cruel? I waited for her to finish. Are you done? I asked quietly. No, I'm not done. You're sick, Sydney. You need help. This is psychotic behavior. I spent $1 million to take a vacation I was never invited to. My voice was calm, steady. The fact that it canceled yours is just geography. Geography? Geography? You did this on purpose. You knew our dates. You knew everything. You're right. I did. She made a sound like choking. Why? Why would you do this? Because I could. That's not a reason. It's the only reason I need. I heard her talking to someone in the background. Marcus probably. Then she was back. Mom and Dad are going to lose their minds when I tell them. Tell them whatever you want. You're not even going, are you? Her voice cracked. You're not actually going to the Maldives. You just did this to hurt us. I looked out my office window at the Seattle skyline. The sun was setting. The sky was turning pink and gold. I haven't decided yet, I said. You haven't decided? You spent $1 million and you haven't decided if you're even going? That's correct. You're insane. Maybe. I'm telling Mom and Dad right now. They're going to call you. They're going to demand you cancel this. They can demand whatever they want. Sydney, please. Her voice shifted, softer now, desperate. Please don't do this. I'm sorry if we made you feel left out. I'm sorry we didn't invite you, but this is too far. Way too far. Is it? Yes, it is. This is cruel and vindictive, and you know it. I thought about all the times I'd heard her laugh when my mother made jokes about my career. All the times she'd asked me for money and never said thank you. All the times she'd posted about family being everything while excluding me from the frame. I need to go, Emma. Sydney, wait. I hung up. My phone immediately started ringing again. My father's name on the screen. I turned my phone off. I sat in my office in the silence and realized I felt lighter than I had in years. My father called the next morning. We need to meet. In person. All of us. His voice was cold, formal. The voice he used with business associates he didn't respect. When? I asked. Today, 6 o'clock. Harborview Grill. Not their house, a neutral restaurant. That told me everything I needed to know about how this would go. I'll be there. I arrived at 5:55. They were already seated in a corner booth. All three of them. My mother, my father, Emma. A united front. My mother's face was tight with rage. Emma's eyes were red and swollen. My father looked older than I'd ever seen him. I slid into the booth across from them. No one said hello. My mother started immediately. This is beyond petty, Sydney. This is cruel. You've always been jealous of Emma, but this crosses every line. I noticed the familiar pattern. I was immediately the villain. No questions asked about why I did it. No curiosity about my perspective. Just judgment. You're punishing us because we didn't invite you on one vacation, Emma said. Her voice was thick. One vacation, Sydney. And you respond by spending $1 million to destroy it. My father leaned forward. We raised you better than this. This is vindictive. This is petty. This is not who we taught you to be. I signaled the waiter and ordered a coffee. They kept talking. My mother listed all the ways I disappointed them. Emma cried about how much this trip meant to her. My father talked about family values and forgiveness. I didn't interrupt. I didn't defend myself. I just watched them perform their outrage, their victimhood, their wounded innocence. When they finally stopped, when the silence stretched long enough, I asked one question. Why wasn't I invited? No one answered. My mother shifted in her seat. My father looked at his water glass. Emma stared at the table. Well? I asked again. My mother tried first. It wasn't personal, Sydney. It was just... Emma wanted it to be intimate. I nodded slowly. Intimate. Parents, sister, brother-in-law. That's 4 people. I paused. But not me. Never me. You're always so busy with work, my father said. We assumed you wouldn't have time. I had time. I told you I had time. It was Emma's celebration, my mother said. She got to choose who came. I looked at Emma. She was crying again. Did you not want me there? I asked her directly. She wiped her eyes. It's not that I didn't want you there. It's just, you and I aren't that close. It would have been weird. We're sisters. Barely, she whispered. The word hung in the air. Barely. I pulled out my phone and opened a document I'd prepared. Numbers, dates, transactions. I didn't show it to them. I just held the phone so they could see it existed. What's that? My father asked. Records, I said calmly. Every loan I've given you and Mom over the last 3 years. $47,000. Every time I covered Emma's car payment or credit card bill. $12,000. Every family event I attended alone, while you three vacationed together. 19 occasions over 8 years. My mother's face went pale. Sydney, those were loans. We always intended to pay you back. Did you? I asked. Because I have the text messages where you called them gifts after I asked about repayment. Silence. My father cleared his throat. What do you want, Sydney? We'll include you in the next trip. We'll make this right. Just cancel the villa booking and we can all move forward. Move forward, I repeated. Yes, as a family. I leaned back in the booth. My coffee arrived. I took a slow sip. I don't want your next trip, Dad. I wanted this one. The one on my birthday. The one I paid for. You paid for it out of spite, Emma said. I paid for it because I could. Because I earned the money myself. Because for once in my life, I wanted to be the priority instead of the afterthought. My mother's voice was ice. So you're really going to go? To a resort with 47 villas by yourself? That's your grand plan? I haven't decided if I'm going yet. Then cancel it, my father demanded. If you're not even going, cancel it and let us have our vacation back. I looked at each of them. Really looked. My mother, who'd never once asked about my life unless she needed something. My father, who'd missed every important moment of my career. Emma, who'd called me barely a sister. No, I said simply. Emma stood up suddenly. Her chair scraped against the floor. So what, you're going to go alone? To a resort meant for 47 villas? That's pathetic, Sydney. That's actually pathetic. I smiled. It was the first time I'd smiled since sitting down. Who said I'd be alone? Emma froze. My mother's eyes narrowed. My father leaned forward. What does that mean? He asked. I stood up, left a $20 bill on the table for my coffee, and picked up my purse. It means exactly what it sounds like. I walked out of the restaurant. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice rising, Emma saying something sharp, my father calling my name. I didn't turn around. I got in my car and drove home through the Seattle twilight. My phone started ringing before I even got out of the parking lot. I turned it off. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony. The city lights sparkled below me. The air was cool and clear. I thought about Emma's question. Who said I'd be alone? I hadn't planned that response. It just came out. But now that I'd said it, now that I'd planted that seed in their minds, I realized something. I didn't want to go to the Maldives alone. I wanted to go with people who actually cared about me. I pulled out my phone and opened a group chat with Rachel and Jen. I typed, how would you two feel about a last-minute trip to the Maldives? All expenses paid, leaving in 9 days. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Within 30 seconds, both of them were calling me. I smiled and answered. Rachel answered first. Sydney, what's going on? Are you okay? I'm fine, I said. Better than fine, actually. I have a question for you. Okay? How would you like to spend 2 weeks at a private resort in the Maldives, all expenses paid, leaving in 9 days? Silence. Rachel? I'm sorry, did you just say the Maldives? I did. All expenses paid? Everything, flights, accommodation, food, activities, everything. Sydney, what is happening right now? Jen beeped in on the other line. Hold on, that's Jen, let me add her. I merged the calls. Okay, both of you are here. I'm serious about this. I booked a private resort in the Maldives, the entire property. I want you both to come with me. The entire property? Jen's voice was high, disbelieving. All 47 villas. Jesus Christ, Sydney. Is this about your family? Rachel asked quietly. Yes, but it's also about mine, my real family, the people who've actually been there. Both of them were quiet for a moment. Then Rachel said, I'm in. Me too, Jen added. Obviously. Are you kidding? Yes. I felt something warm spread through my chest. Thank you. Don't thank us, Jen said. You're giving us a free vacation to paradise. It's not just about the vacation, I said. It's about who I'm spending it with. After we hung up, I sat on my balcony with my wine and my phone. I started making a list. Jasmine, my college roommate who'd lent me her car for 6 months when mine died, who'd sat with me in the hospital when I had my appendix out because my family was too busy to come. Marcus, my cousin on my father's side, the one my parents stopped inviting to holidays after he came out, the one who sent me birthday cards every single year with handwritten notes inside. My old mentor from my first job, Patricia, who'd believed in me when I was 23 and terrified. My grandmother, my father's mother, who lived in a nursing home 40 minutes away because my parents said there wasn't room in their house. I kept writing names. People who'd shown up, people who'd cared, people my family had overlooked, dismissed, or excluded. 23 names total. I started making calls. Jasmine answered on the first ring. Sid, I was just thinking about you. I have something to ask you, and I need you to hear me out before you answer. Okay, you're scaring me. I have access to a private resort in the Maldives for 2 weeks. I'd like you to be my guest. No cost to you, just 2 weeks of peace. She was quiet. Jasmine, are you serious right now? Completely serious. Sydney, I can't afford, you don't have to afford anything. I'm covering everything, flights, rooms, food, all of it. I heard her breath catch. Why? Because you've been more of a sister to me than my actual sister ever was. She started crying, soft, quiet tears. I'm in, she whispered. God, Sydney, I'm so in. I called Marcus next. Cousin Sydney, to what do I owe the pleasure? I'm taking a trip to the Maldives. I want you to come with me. That's hilarious. When? I'm serious, Marcus. Leaving in 9 days, 2 weeks, everything paid for. Wait, you're actually serious? Yes. Sydney, I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything. I'm inviting you. Please say yes. He was quiet for a long moment. Does your family know about this? They know. And they're okay with you inviting me? I don't care if they're okay with it. This is my trip, my money, my choice. Damn, he said softly. Okay, yes, absolutely yes. I called my grandmother last. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice thin but steady. Sydney, sweetheart, what a nice surprise. Hi, Grandma. How are you feeling? Oh, old, tired, but still kicking. I have something to ask you. It might sound crazy. I like crazy. Go ahead. Would you like to come to the Maldives with me for 2 weeks? I'll arrange everything, including medical support if you need it. She laughed. A real laugh, bright and clear. The Maldives? Sydney Marie, are you pulling my leg? No, Grandma, I'm completely serious. Well, she paused. I always wanted to see the ocean one more time before I died. Your grandfather and I went to Hawaii for our honeymoon. Best 2 weeks of my life. So is that a yes? That's a hell yes, sweetheart. When do we leave? Over the next 3 days, every single person said yes. 23 people, 23 yeses. On the fourth day, Emma found out. One of my friends had posted a photo on Instagram with the caption, "Cannot believe this is happening," and tagged Vela Private Island. Emma called me screaming, "You're taking strangers to our resort?" I was at my desk at work. I put her on speaker and kept typing. My resort, Emma, and they're not strangers. Who are they then? They're family. They're not family, we're your family. No, I said calmly. You're related to me. There's a difference. She made a choked sound. You're insane. You know that? Actually insane. Maybe. Mom and Dad are devastated. Good. Good? Good? What is wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with me, Emma. For the first time in my life, nothing is wrong with me. She hung up. That evening, my father called. His voice was different, softer, almost pleading. Sydney, please, let's talk about this rationally. I'm listening. What if we all went together? You and your friends, and us. We could share the resort. Make this a healing experience for everyone. I considered it for exactly 2 seconds. You had 32 years to make me feel like family, Dad. I'm not giving you my 2 weeks. Sydney, we're done here. I hung up. I booked the flights that night. 24 tickets total. First class for my grandmother. Economy plus for everyone else because that's what felt right. As I confirmed the last ticket, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "You'll regret this. Family is forever." I looked at those words for a long moment. Then I deleted the message without responding. I closed my laptop and poured myself another glass of wine. 6 days until departure. I felt lighter than I'd felt in years. I met my group at SeaTac International on July 14th, my birthday. I arrived early and stood near the international departures gate, watching them trickle in one by one. Jasmine came first with her 7-year-old daughter Maya. She saw me and started crying immediately. We hugged for a long time. Rachel and Jen arrived together, pulling matching suitcases, looking like they'd already started celebrating. Marcus showed up pushing my grandmother in a wheelchair. She was dressed in a bright floral blouse and had lipstick on. She looked more alive than I'd seen her in years. "There's my girl," she said when she saw me. I knelt down and hugged her carefully. "Ready for an adventure, Grandma?" "Ready to live a little before I die," she said with a wink. One by one, they all arrived. 24 of us total. People who'd never flown first class, people who'd never left the country, people who'd shown up for me when it mattered. They weren't a perfect group. They were better. They were chosen. The flight was 16 hours with a layover in Dubai. I'd arranged for everyone to have comfortable seats, meals they'd actually want to eat, and small gift bags with travel essentials. On the second leg of the journey, somewhere over the Indian Ocean, Jasmine raised her plastic cup of champagne. "To Sydney," she said, "for having the guts to do what most of us only dream about." Everyone raised their glasses. "It's not about the money," my mentor Patricia added. "It's about the courage. That's what we're celebrating." I felt my throat tighten. My grandmother squeezed my hand from the seat next to mine. "Your mother called me," she said quietly. 2 days ago. Told me I was betraying the family by going on this trip." I looked at her. "What did you say?" I told her I was finally joining one. I had to look away, out the window at the endless blue below us. We landed in Mail at sunset. A private speedboat was waiting to take us to Vela. The ride took 20 minutes. The water was impossibly clear. The sky was turning pink and orange and gold. When we arrived, the staff was lined up on the dock. They greeted each of us by name. Champagne was ready, cold towels, flowers. I watched my guests' faces as they took it all in. The awe, the gratitude, the pure joy. This is what family should feel like, I thought. Our villas were spread across the island. Each one had an ocean view. Each one had a private pool. Each one had a staff member assigned to make sure we had everything we needed. I helped my grandmother settle into hers. It was on the ground floor with accessible features I'd requested in advance. "Sydney Marie," she said, looking around. "This is heaven. You deserve it, Grandma." "So do you, sweetheart. So do you." That evening, I posted one photo on Instagram, just me and my grandmother on the beach at sunset, her in her wheelchair, me sitting in the sand next to her, the ocean behind us. No caption. Within an hour, Emma had commented, "Enjoy your fake family." I stared at those words. Before I could delete it, 12 people had already responded, defending me, calling her out, saying things I'd never had the courage to say myself. I deleted Emma's comment and turned off notifications. That night, we had dinner on the beach. Long tables set up in the sand, candles everywhere, the sound of waves in the background. Patricia stood up with her wine glass. "I want to say something," she announced. "Sydney didn't just give us a vacation. She showed us what it looks like when someone chooses love over obligation. When someone decides that family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up. Sydney, you showed up for all of us at different times in our lives. We're honored to show up for you now." Everyone clapped. I felt tears on my face. Good tears. The kind I hadn't cried in months. At midnight, I was standing on my villa's balcony when my phone rang. Mom. I almost didn't answer, but I did. "Hello?" "Sydney." Her voice was different, smaller. "I saw the photos." I waited. I didn't know you had all these people in your life." The ocean was dark and endless behind me. The stars were brighter than I'd ever seen them. You never asked, Mom. Silence on her end. They look happy, she said finally. They are you? I thought about that. Yes, I am. More silence. Sydney, your father and I have been talking. About what? About this trip? About everything, about how we handled things. I closed my eyes. Okay. Can we come? Her voice cracked slightly. We'll pay our own way. We'll stay in a hotel nearby. We want to be part of this, part of your life. I opened my eyes and looked out at the water. The island was private, exclusive. There was nothing nearby. No hotels, no resorts. No easy way to just show up. That was the entire point. There are no hotels nearby, Mom. That's the point. Then we'll stay on the island, in one of the other villas. You said there were 47. They're all assigned. All of them? Yes. She was quiet for a long moment. So that's it? We're just shut out completely? I looked up at the stars. You shut me out for 32 years, Mom. I'm taking 2 weeks. Sydney, I need to go. It's late here. Please, just think about it. Good night, Mom. I hung up. I stood there on the balcony, phone in hand, ocean behind me, and realized I was at a crossroads I never expected. Part of me wanted to say yes, to believe that maybe this could be the moment everything changed. But another part, the part that had been dismissed for 32 years, knew that forgiveness without accountability is just enabling. Is it cruel to hold the boundary? Or is it cruel to pretend the past doesn't matter? I still don't know the answer. I went inside and climbed into bed. Through the open doors, I could hear the ocean. I fell asleep to that sound, peaceful, whole, free. The days that followed were the most peaceful I'd had in years. I went snorkeling with Marcus in water so clear I could see 30 feet down. We saw sea turtles and manta rays and schools of fish that moved like liquid silver. I had spa days with Jasmine where we got massages and facials and lay in silence listening to ocean sounds piped through hidden speakers. I taught my grandmother to paddleboard. She sat on the board while I pushed her gently through the shallow water. She laughed like a child. Every moment was intentionally joyful, deliberately chosen. No drama, no tension, just presence. On day 4, I made the mistake of checking social media. Emma had posted a photo from a different beach resort. Somewhere in Mexico, it looked like. The beach was nice but crowded. The hotel in the background looked standard, 3 stars maybe. The caption read, "Sometimes the best trips are the ones that teach you who really matters." I stared at those words for a long time. I didn't comment, I didn't react. I just closed the app and put my phone away. On day 6, I spent the afternoon alone. I sat on my villa's deck with a journal I'd bought at the resort gift shop. I wrote for 2 hours straight. I wrote about the cost of all this. Not the money, though that was significant. The emotional price of choosing myself. I expected to feel guilty. I expected to feel like I'd gone too far. But I didn't. I felt free. That evening, I checked my email before dinner. There was one from my father. The subject line was just my name, Sydney. I almost deleted it, but something made me open it. It was 3 paragraphs long, the most he'd ever written to me. Sydney, I've been doing a lot of thinking these past few days. Your mother and I have been talking, really talking, for the first time in a long time. I want to apologize for the favoritism. I see it now. I see the pattern. I don't know when it started or why we let it continue, but I see it. I don't know how to fix it or if it can be fixed. But I want you to know that I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you, even if I never showed it. You built a life for yourself without our help, and that takes strength I'm not sure I have. I'm sorry I didn't tell you that sooner. I read it 3 times. He didn't ask for anything, didn't beg me to cancel the trip or include them or forgive them. He just said he was proud. I closed my laptop and sat there for a long time. That night at dinner, I told my grandmother about the email. She listened quietly, her hand resting on mine. What do you think I should do? I asked. What do you want to do? I don't know. Then don't do anything yet. Sit with it. Jasmine agreed. You don't owe him an immediate response. You don't owe him anything, actually. So I sat with it. For 2 days, I didn't respond. I just let the words settle inside me. On day 8, I wrote back. Thank you for saying that. I'm not ready to forgive yet, but I'm willing to believe you mean it. That's the best I can do right now. I hit send before I could overthink it. On day 9, I was having breakfast on the beach when Amir, the resort manager, approached me. Ms. Sweeney, good morning. May I speak with you for a moment? Of course. He sat down across from me, his expression professional but slightly uncomfortable. I have an unusual request to discuss with you. Okay. Your family has contacted the resort. They're asking if they can visit for just one day. They've offered to pay for water taxi transportation and any fees associated with a day pass. They want to talk to you in person. They've assured me they will respect your space and leave if you ask them to. I set down my coffee cup. My family? You mean my parents and Emma? Yes, ma'am. When? They're asking about tomorrow, day 10 of your stay. I looked out at the ocean. The water was impossibly blue. The sky was clear. What did you tell them? I told them I would need to speak with you first. This is your booking, Ms. Sweeney. You have complete control over who accesses this property. If you want me to tell them no, I will do so immediately and ensure they understand the decision is final. I thought about my father's email, his apology, his pride. I thought about my mother's voice on the phone, smaller than I'd ever heard it. I thought about Emma's Instagram caption. Sometimes the best trips are the ones that teach you who really matters. Maybe she'd learned something, maybe they all had. Or maybe this was just another manipulation, another way to make me feel guilty, another performance. Can I think about it? I asked. Of course. I'll need an answer by this evening so I can respond to them appropriately. I'll let you know by dinner. Thank you, Ms. Sweeney. He stood and walked away. I sat there with my coffee, watching the waves. Rachel came and sat down next to me. You okay? You look like you're carrying something heavy. My family wants to come here tomorrow, just for the day, to talk. Jesus, what are you going to say? I have no idea. She was quiet for a moment. What does your gut tell you? I closed my eyes and tried to listen to that voice, the one that had been buried under years of people-pleasing and guilt. My gut says this trip was supposed to be mine and the people I chose. Letting them in, even for a day, changes that. Then you have your answer. But what if this is the moment? What if this is when everything could actually change? Rachel took my hand. Sydney, you've spent 32 years waiting for that moment. Maybe it's time to stop waiting and start living. I opened my eyes and looked at her. She was right. I knew she was right. But knowing and doing are different things. I spent the afternoon thinking. By evening, I'd gathered my closest people. Jasmine, Marcus, my grandmother. We sat on the beach as the sun went down. I need your advice, I said. I explained the request. My family wanting to come for a day, wanting to talk. Jasmine spoke first. You don't owe them anything, Sid. Not a conversation, not a chance, nothing. Marcus leaned back in his chair. But maybe you owe yourself closure. Maybe hearing what they have to say gives you that. My grandmother was quiet for a long time. Then she squeezed my hand. Whatever you choose, we're here. That's all that matters. I sat with their words. All 3 perspectives. All 3 truths. That night, I found Amir at the resort office. I have an answer about my family's request. Of course, Ms. Sweeney. They can come, but I have conditions. He pulled out a notebook. 4 hours maximum, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. They cannot stay overnight. They cannot interact with my guests unless specifically invited to do so. They must respect my space and leave immediately if I ask them to. Amir wrote everything down. I'll communicate these terms to them. If they agree, I'll arrange transportation. Thank you. May I ask, Ms. Sweeney, do you want me to have staff present during the visit? I thought about that. No, but have someone nearby if I need them. Understood. I didn't tell anyone else in my group. I didn't want their vacation disrupted by my family drama. This was my thing to handle. I scheduled the visit for day 11. Most of my guests had signed up for a group snorkeling excursion that afternoon. I'd opted out, saying I wanted a quiet day. Now I knew why. The morning of day 11, I woke up anxious. My stomach was tight. My hands felt cold despite the heat. I got up and went to the beach. The sun was just rising. The sand was cool under my feet. I did yoga, slow stretches, deep breathing, trying to center myself. I reminded myself of the facts. I was in control now. They were on my territory, playing by my rules. For the first time in my life, I held all the power in this dynamic. That should have felt good. It mostly felt heavy. I showered and dressed carefully. Nothing too formal, nothing that looked like I was trying. Just a simple sundress and sandals. I had lunch alone in my villa. I couldn't eat much. At 1:45, I walked down to the main pavilion. I could see the dock from there. Amir was waiting. They've confirmed they're en route, Ms. Sweeney. Arrival in approximately 15 minutes. Okay. Would you like me to greet them, or would you prefer to do so yourself? You greet them, explain the rules, then bring them to the pavilion. Understood. I sat down at one of the tables. My hands were shaking slightly. I folded them in my lap. At exactly 2 p.m., I heard the boat. I didn't stand up. I just watched. The boat pulled up to the dock. Amir walked down to meet it. 3 people stepped off. My mother, my father, Emma. From this distance, they looked small, uncertain. My mother was wearing a dress I'd never seen before. My father had on khaki pants and a polo shirt. Emma wore white linen pants and a blue top. They looked like tourists, like people trying to fit in somewhere they didn't belong. Amir spoke to them. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw him gesture, saw them nod, saw my mother's face tighten. Then Amir led them up the path toward the pavilion, toward me. My heart was pounding. I kept my face calm, neutral. They reached the pavilion. Amir stepped aside. Ms. Sweeney, your guests have arrived. Thank you, Amir. He nodded and walked away, but not far. Just out of earshot. My family stood there, 10 feet away from me. No one spoke. I looked at each of them. Really, looked. My mother's face was tight, controlled, but her eyes were red. My father looked older, tired. His shoulders were slightly hunched. Emma looked like she'd been crying recently. Her mascara was smudged at the corners. Sit down, I said. They sat, all 3 of them on one side of the table, me on the other. The distance felt intentional, appropriate. You have 4 hours, I said, starting now. My mother opened her mouth to speak, but my father put his hand on hers. Let me, he said quietly. She closed her mouth, nodded. My father looked at me. Thank you for seeing us, Sydney. We know we don't deserve it. I didn't respond. I just waited. We've spent the last week talking, really talking, about everything, about how we treated you, about the patterns we fell into, about why. And, I asked, and we don't have good answers. We have excuses. We have explanations, but nothing that makes it okay. Emma spoke up. I didn't realize how bad it was until this trip, until I saw all those people you invited, people who love you, people I didn't even know existed in your life. You never asked about my life, I said calmly. I know. Her voice cracked. I know that now. My mother finally spoke. Sydney, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I failed you as a mother. I see that now. I looked at her, at the tears starting to form in her eyes. I felt something inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of something. This is what power feels like, I thought. And it's lonelier than I expected. I led them away from the main pavilion to a smaller one on the far side of the island. Private, quiet, away from my guests. I didn't hug them, I didn't smile. I just gestured to the chairs and sat down across from them, like a business meeting, which in a way it was. My mother looked older than I remembered, tired. There were lines around her eyes I hadn't noticed before. She spoke first. Sydney, I don't know how to make this right. I don't think I can. She paused, her hands folded tightly in her lap. But I need you to know that I see it now. The way we treated you, the way we made you invisible. She wasn't making excuses. She was just acknowledging. It was more than she'd ever given me before. I nodded, but didn't speak. Emma shifted in her seat. She looked uncomfortable, defensive. I didn't ask to be the favorite, she said. I didn't ask them to treat you differently. I looked at her steadily. No, but you benefited from it, and you never once stood up for me. Her face crumpled. You're right. Her voice was small. I didn't. I saw it happening, and I let it. I was selfish. I'm so sorry, Sydney. She started crying, real tears, not the performative kind. I felt something in my chest loosen slightly. My father hadn't spoken yet. He was looking at his hands. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red. I failed you, he said simply. I saw what was happening, and I told myself it wasn't that bad, that you were strong enough to handle it. I was wrong. You were strong, but you shouldn't have had to be. The words hung in the air. I let them sit there for a moment. Then I spoke. I didn't do this to hurt you. I want you to understand that. I did this because I needed to prove to myself that I matter, that my presence or absence makes a difference. I paused. And you know what I learned? It does. Just not to you. My mother flinched. Emma looked down. My father closed his eyes. I don't know if we can fix this, I continued. I don't know if I want to, but I know I'm done trying to earn a place in a family that should have given it to me freely. I leaned forward slightly. If you want a relationship with me going forward, it has to be different. Equal. Duh, real. I'm not going to beg for your attention anymore. I'm not going to shrink myself to make you comfortable. I'm not going to fund your lives while you exclude me from them. We understand, my father said quietly. Do you? I asked. Because understanding and changing are two different things. We'll do better, Emma said. I'll do better. I promise. I don't want promises. I want action. My mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. Whatever you need, Sydney. Whatever timeline you need. We'll wait. We'll work for it. My father added, You're right to be angry. You're right to set boundaries. We'll respect them. I looked at all three of them. They looked broken, humbled. Part of me felt satisfied. Part of me just felt tired. Your 4 hours aren't up yet, I said. But I think we're done here. They didn't argue. I stood up. They followed. We walked back to the dock in silence. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the sand. At the boat, my mother turned to me. Are you happy here? She asked. I looked back at the resort, at the villas scattered across the island, at the people I'd chosen to surround myself with. Yes, I said. For the first time in a long time, I am. She nodded. That's good. That's really good, honey. Emma hugged me. I let her, but I didn't hug back. Not yet. My father shook my hand. It felt formal, appropriate. Thank you for seeing us, he said. Thank you for coming. They got on the boat. The captain started the engine. I stood on the dock and watched them pull away. My mother waved. I didn't wave back. I just watched. As the boat got smaller, disappearing toward the horizon, I felt something unexpected. Not triumph, not vindication. Sadness. Deep, heavy sadness. I realized something standing there alone on that dock. Revenge doesn't heal the wound. It just exposes it. All this time, I thought proving my worth would make me feel whole. I thought showing them what they'd lost would fill the empty space they'd created. But it didn't. The space was still there. The years of dismissal, of being second choice, of being invisible. Those years didn't disappear because I'd spent $1 million, or because they'd finally apologized. The wound was still there, just visible now, to everyone, including me. I walked back to my villa slowly. The sun was setting. The sky was turning orange and pink. I sat on my balcony and watched the colors change. My phone buzzed, a text from Jasmine. How did it go? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, "I don't know yet." I put my phone down and closed my eyes. The ocean sounded different now, still beautiful, still peaceful, but different. I thought about my grandmother's words. Whatever you choose, we're here. I thought about Rachel's advice. Maybe it's time to stop waiting and start living. I thought about my father's email. I'm proud of you, even if I never showed it. I thought about all of it, and I realized something. This trip wasn't about them anymore. It never really was. It was about me, about learning that I could choose my family, that I could set boundaries, that I could say no without guilt, that I could be happy without their approval. The boat was gone now, just a small dot on the horizon. I opened my eyes and looked at the sunset. It was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen, and for the first time, I didn't wish anyone else was there to see it with me. I was enough. Just me. That was enough. The next 2 days passed quietly. I didn't join the group activities. I stayed in my villa mostly, sitting on the balcony, staring at the water. My friends noticed. They didn't push. Rachel brought me coffee in the morning. Jasmine sat with me for an hour without saying a word, just being there. On the second day, my grandmother came to my villa. She sat down next to me, her hand finding mine. "Talk to me, sweetheart." "I don't know what I'm feeling," I said. "That's okay. You don't have to know yet." I thought I'd feel better. After they came, after they apologized, I thought I'd feel vindicated or powerful or something. "And you don't?" "I just feel tired." She squeezed my hand. "Healing isn't linear, Sydney. You did something brave. You stood up for yourself. You set boundaries. You reclaimed your worth. Now you get to feel everything that comes with it, the good and the bad and the confusing." I looked at her. "How do you know all this?" She smiled. "I'm 84 years old, honey. I've had a lot of time to learn." That afternoon, I went for a walk on the beach. I thought about the whole trip, the booking, the cancellation, the confrontation, and I realized something. This was never about revenge. It was about reclaiming my narrative, proving to myself that I deserve joy, luxury, love, all the things my family made me feel I had to earn. And I did it. Not for them, for myself. On our final night, I organized a special dinner on the beach. Long tables, candles, the best food the resort could offer. Everyone was there. All 23 of my guests, my chosen family. After dessert, I stood up. "I want to say something." The table went quiet. "I brought you all here because you've been my real family. The people who showed up when it mattered. The people who saw me, who chose me back. This trip wasn't about what I lost. It was about what I found." I looked around at their faces. "Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Thank you for teaching me what family actually means." Jasmine was crying. Marcus raised his glass. My grandmother was smiling. "To chosen family," Rachel said. "To chosen family," everyone echoed. We drank, we laughed. We stayed at that table until midnight. As people started heading back to their villas, Jasmine pulled me aside. "We have something for you. All of us worked on it together." She handed me a leather-bound book. I opened it. It was a photo album. Pictures from the entire trip. Candid shots, group photos, sunsets, smiles. But it wasn't just photos. Each person had written something on their pages. Jasmine's note read, "You taught me that family isn't blood, it's choice. Thank you for choosing me." Marcus wrote, "Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for showing me what courage looks like." Rachel wrote, "You are the strongest person I know, not because you never break, but because you keep building even after you do." My grandmother's page had just one line, "I'm so proud of the woman you've become." I closed the book and hugged it to my chest. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you all." Later that night, I walked down to the beach alone. The resort was quiet. Most people were asleep. I sat in the sand and looked at the stars. I thought about my biological family, my mother, my father, Emma. I didn't hate them, but I didn't forgive them either. I existed somewhere in the space between, acknowledging the hurt while refusing to let it define my future. They were part of my story, but they weren't the whole story anymore. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. A text from my father. Emma wants to start therapy. Family therapy. With you, if you're willing. No pressure, just hope. I stared at the message. The ocean waves crashed against the shore. Steady, rhythmic, eternal. I thought about what that would mean. Sitting in a room with them, unpacking 32 years of hurt, trying to rebuild something that had never been properly built in the first place. Part of me wanted to say no immediately, to protect the peace I'd finally found. Part of me wondered if healing required one more act of courage. I didn't respond. I just put my phone back in my pocket and kept staring at the stars. Tomorrow we'd leave this island, go back to real life, back to Seattle and work and routines. But something had changed. I had changed. I'd learned that I could choose my family, that I could set boundaries without guilt, that I could be enough all by myself. I'd learned that revenge doesn't heal wounds, but reclaiming your power does. I'd learned that forgiveness isn't required for peace. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply walk away. The waves kept coming, I kept breathing, and for the first time in my life, that felt like enough. Leaving Villa felt bittersweet. We packed slowly that last morning. No one wanted to rush. We wanted to hold on to it for as long as we could. The staff lined up on the dock to say goodbye. Every single person who'd served us over the past 2 weeks. Amir shook my hand. Ms. Sweeney, it's been an honor hosting you and your guests. Thank you for everything, Amir. You made this perfect. He smiled. You brought something special here. Not just money, heart. That's rare in this business. I felt my throat tighten. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. Come back anytime. I nodded, not trusting my voice. We boarded the boat. I watched the island get smaller behind us. On the plane home, I sat next to my grandmother. We didn't talk much. We just held hands across the armrest. Somewhere over the Pacific, she squeezed my fingers. You know what I'm proudest of? What, Grandma? Not that you spent the money, that you knew you were worth it. I looked at her. Her eyes were clear and bright. I wasn't sure I did. Not at first. But you do now? I thought about that. Yeah, I think I do. She smiled and closed her eyes. Good, that's all that matters. We landed in Seattle on a gray afternoon. The city looked different somehow. Or maybe I was different. I took my grandmother home to the nursing facility first. She hugged me tight at the door. Don't be a stranger, sweetheart. I won't, I promise. I drove to my apartment, carried my suitcase up the stairs, unlocked my door. Everything was exactly as I'd left it, but it felt smaller now, quieter. I unpacked slowly, put my clothes in the laundry, set the photo album from my friends on my bookshelf where I could see it every day. Then I sat on my couch and just breathed. Reality was settling back in. Work tomorrow, bills, routines, regular life. But something was different. I was different. I carried myself with a quiet confidence I didn't have before. Like I'd proven something to myself that couldn't be unproven. That night, I pulled out my phone. I opened the text thread with my father. I stared at his message about therapy for a long time. Then I typed, I'll think about the therapy, but I need time. And I need to see consistent change, not just words. I hit send before I could second guess myself. His response came within 2 minutes. Fair. Thank you for considering it. That's all we can ask. I set my phone down and felt something release in my chest. 2 days later, my mother called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Hi, Mom. Sydney, hi. How are you settling back in? Fine. Tired. Jet-lagged. I'm sure. She paused. Listen, your father and I are still dealing with those property tax issues. We were wondering if you could help us out with another small loan. Just $5,000. We'll pay you back by the end of the month. I closed my eyes. The old Sydney would have said yes. Would have transferred the money before the call even ended. No, Mom, I can't do that. Silence. Sydney, I said no. More silence. Then, okay, I understand. I waited for the guilt trip, the manipulation, the cold disappointment in her voice, but it didn't come. Okay, she repeated. I'll figure something else out. Thanks anyway. We hung up. I stared at my phone in disbelief. She'd accepted my boundary, without a fight, without making me feel like a bad daughter. It was the first time in my life. Over the next week, something unexpected happened. My story spread through my extended family. I didn't tell it, but somehow people knew. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years started reaching out. My cousin Sarah sent me a long email about how she'd always felt like the black sheep of her side of the family, how reading about what I did gave her courage to set her own boundaries. My uncle's daughter messaged me on Facebook sharing her own story of being overlooked in favor of her brother. One by one, they came forward. People I'd thought had perfect family relationships. People I'd envied. They all had their own versions of my story. I realized I wasn't alone in this experience. I never had been. I'd just been too ashamed to talk about it, too afraid of being seen as bitter or jealous. But now, sitting in my apartment reading their messages, I felt something unexpected. Connection. Real, deep connection with people who understood. On Friday night, I opened my laptop. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I just felt like I needed to write. I opened a blank document and stared at the cursor blinking on the white screen. Then I started typing. The words came easily, naturally. I wrote about the dinner, the exclusion, the decision to book vela, the confrontation, the healing. I wrote about what I'd learned, about chosen family, about boundaries, about worth. I wrote for 2 hours straight without stopping. When I finally looked up, I had 12 pages. At the top of the document, I typed a title without even thinking about it. What I'm Worth. I read it back slowly. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. But it was true. It was my truth. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I needed to hide it. I saved the document and closed my laptop. Outside my window, the city lights were starting to come on. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window. I thought about my family, about the therapy my father had mentioned, about whether I wanted to try. I thought about my chosen family, about Jasmine and Rachel and Marcus, and my grandmother, about the people who'd shown up. I thought about myself, about the woman I'd been 2 months ago, and the woman I was now. They weren't the same person, and I was okay with that. More than okay. I was proud. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my regular coffee shop, the same one I've been coming to for 5 years, same table by the window, same order, oat milk latte, no sugar. Life has returned to normal, work, routines, everyday things, but I'm not the same person who sat at that family dinner 6 months ago. I'm clearer now, stronger, more certain of my value. My family did start therapy. Emma sends me updates every week, not asking for anything, just sharing her progress, things she's learning about herself, patterns she's recognizing. Last week she wrote, I realized I used being the favorite as a shield. If they loved me more, I didn't have to look at my own insecurity. I'm sorry I did that at your expense. I wrote back, thank you for saying that. It means a lot. My parents have changed too, slowly, imperfectly. But really, they've started including me in decisions, asking my opinion about things, respecting my boundaries when I say no. My mother called last week just to ask how I was doing. Not because she needed something, just to talk. It felt strange. Good strange. Thanksgiving is next week. My mother invited me. But this time it felt different. She said, we'd love to have you, Sydney. But we understand if you're not ready. No pressure, just an open invitation. I thought about it for 2 days. Then I said yes, but only for a few hours. I'm also hosting my own Friendsgiving the day before with my Vela crew. Rachel and Jen are coming. Marcus is bringing his new boyfriend, Jasmine, and her daughter, my grandmother. The people who chose me. Yesterday was Thanksgiving. I drove to my parents' house in the afternoon. My hands were shaking slightly when I parked. But when I walked in, things were different. Emma hugged me at the door. A real hug. I'm glad you came. she said. Me too. At dinner, Emma asked about my work, actually listened to my answer, asked follow-up questions. My father mentioned a project I'd completed at work. He'd remembered me telling him about it weeks ago. That must have been challenging, he said. You should be proud. I am, I said. My mother had set the table carefully. I noticed my place setting wasn't at the end like it used to be. It was in the middle, between my father and Emma. It was a small thing. It mattered. The conversation flowed easier than I expected. There were still awkward moments, still silences that felt heavy. But there was also laughter, real laughter. After dinner, my mother asked if I'd help her with the dishes. In the kitchen, just the two of us, she turned to me. Sydney, I know I can't undo the past. I know I hurt you in ways that don't just disappear because I apologize. Her voice was quiet, steady. But I want you to know, I see you now, really see you. And I'm so sorry it took me this long. I looked at her, really looked. She had tears in her eyes. I know, I said, and I'm learning to let you. She nodded and wiped her eyes. We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. I left after 2 hours, said my goodbyes, promised to come for Christmas if I felt ready. Driving home, I had my windows down even though it was cold. Music playing, the city lights reflecting off the wet streets. I thought about the girl who sat at that dinner table 6 months ago, desperate to be included, willing to shrink herself to fit. I thought about the woman who spent $1 million on a resort just to prove a point, just to show them what they'd lost. And I thought about who I am now, someone who knows that the best revenge isn't exclusion or money or proving anything to anyone. The best revenge is becoming someone you're proud of. The real revenge was my peace. My phone buzzed at a red light, a text from Jasmine. Same time next year? I'm already saving for it. I smiled. I typed back, absolutely. But next time we're going somewhere we all choose together. She sent back a heart emoji. The light turned green. I drove home. When I got to my apartment, I made tea and sat by the window. I pulled out the document I'd been writing. What I'm worth. I'd added to it over the past few months, refined it, shaped it into something real. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. But it existed. My truth existed on paper. And that felt like enough. I looked out at the city, at the life I'd built, at the person I'd become. I learned something on that island, something I'm still learning every day, that you can't buy family, but you can choose it. You can't force people to see your worth, but you can decide to see it yourself. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is walk away from people who make you feel small and walk toward the ones who help you grow. If this story meant something to you, if you've ever had to choose yourself over the people who were supposed to choose you, I'd be honored if you'd like and subscribe. Not for me, for you. Because your story matters too. And maybe, just maybe, you're exactly where you need to be to start writing your next chapter. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for reminding me that I was never really alone. I closed my laptop and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was an island I'd never forget. A place where I'd learned that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who sees you, who chooses you back. And I'd been chosen by people who mattered, by myself most of all. I finished my tea and went to bed. Tomorrow was a new day, a new chapter. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't wait to see what I'd write next.